Intelligence. I'd like to introduce Chelsea and Matt. They are going to be offering this session today. I'm sure most of you guys know them. So without further ado, feel free to take it away, Chelsea.
So I'm not Chelsea, but I will be.
Sorry.
Talking. So this is Matt. It's all the participant list. I know a lot of you guys, so happy you joined us here to learn a little bit about Power BI. Now, Chelsea is on. She might chime in from time to time, but she's going to be driving for us today, and I will be doing most of the talking. So, Chelsea, do you want to?
Yeah, Tara, I need you to stop sharing. Thank you.
All right, so we've got a few slides. I'm going to talk a little bit here at the beginning about just some general Power BI stuff, and then we'll actually get in and look at the product. Today is going to be pretty high level, a little introduction to BI to show you how you can quickly do some reports. As we go throughout, we're trying to expand the Power BI offerings we do. So we will be planning some more webinars down the road to get a little more advanced. So today is going to be a pretty high level introduction, hopefully get you used to seeing what it looks like and how it works. So we'll go to the next slide there, Chelsea. All right, so just some basics here. First of all, there are 3 clients that make up the Power BI suite. So you have the desktop version, which is what we've got a link there to download. You have an online version, which you also might see called Power BI Service. And then you have a mobile version, which is just an app that you can go to your app store, either in Android or Apple, and get that downloaded. So just real quick to give you an overview of what the differences are between those. There's not a lot of differences between the desktop and online. Both of those you can do your reporting, create your reports, and refresh data, pull in data, connect to data sources. The main difference between the desktop and the online/BI service is on the service one, you are able to publish data. And there's a concept of workspaces. So depending on your license, which I'll get to in here in just a minute, you can publish those to workspaces, and based on who has access to those workspaces, they can also see those reports. So that's the main difference. On the desktop, you can publish, but nobody else is going to be able to log into their desktop version and see those reports. They would have to go out to the online version to see that. And then the mobile one is more just for reviewing reports. So same idea, when I publish those out to a workspace, someone would have access to see those on their mobile app. So they could open it up. Somebody's out in the field doing sales or something like that, they could open it up and look at a report right there on their mobile device. So I mentioned license types, so I want to talk about those just for a second. These are confusing. They still kind of confuse me today. So there are 3 license types. There's a free version, a pro version, and a premium version. So as far as the pricing goes, free, obviously, no cost, free. The pro is $9.99 a month per user, and that does come with, if you do have Office 365 Enterprise E5 or higher, you already have that. So you potentially may have it if you have Office 365, you already might have that free version, or that pro version. Now, what does that pro version give you besides that's not with the free version? So both versions, I can create reports, I can consume them myself. The difference is on the pro version, I am able to publish those out to those workspaces, and then other people can consume those reports, either in just a read-only way, or sometimes you may have multiple people working on the same report. So without the pro version, you are not able to publish those out for people to see. And then also other people that are reviewing those would need that pro license. Now the premium license is, yeah, go ahead, Joseph.
Sorry, if you are using the free version, you can share reports, but it's like sending an Excel file back and forth via email, right? So that person would also have to have access to the data set to be able to refresh them. But if you open a report, refresh it in the morning in the Power BI desktop, you can email that out just like an Excel file.
Right. Yep, so it's more of a static report, something that's not just available for consumption there. Also with the Pro version, you get 8 automatic refreshes per day. So you can refresh it as much as you want manually, and that's same with free. So on the free version, I can refresh as many times as I want manually. But with the Pro version, I do get 8 refreshes per day. So that means automatic. I can schedule them once an hour, 8 to 5, whatever it is, to have those run. The premium version, much more expensive. You're looking at like $5,000 a month for unlimited users, but that would be for a very large organization that needs a lot of computing power and has a lot of users. So that's what that premium version is. In order to do that, you actually have to reach out to Microsoft Direct and work with them to get that premium version. All right, so Chelsea, if you would go out, let's take just a quick look at the desktop version maybe first. All right, so here's our desktop version, and this is where we're going to be working mostly today to build our couple reports we're going to build for you, show you how that works. You'll notice kind of the main thing, you got a ribbon at the top. That's going to give you, just like if you're used to Excel, Word, it's the same idea, all your other Office applications. And you're going to see different tabs up at the top that give you different things to do. If we go down here to the left, we've got where we actually view our report and build it. We have a data button there that will actually show us the data that makes up those reports. And then we have a model, which is where we're going to do our relationships. And we'll see that as we get into the building of the reports here in a few minutes. Over there on the right, you'll see visualizations. I have trouble with that word. And then fields, which as we add data, we'll start to see those fields from the tables we add populate to the right. And then the farthest left there is filters. So as we start to add data, we can then filter it, and we can filter by the page, all pages, or as add an individual visualization visualization, just filtering to that version as well. All right, so then we'll minimize this. We'll pop out here to the online version. And you'll see that those workspaces that I mentioned. So we actually have a workspace here at TrinSoft that's called Dynamics, where we do publish some reports. These, we're not going to particularly open them. Well, actually, looks like Chelsea put something out here we can look at. So you can see we just threw a little report out here that we can view, and this is what it would look like in that online version. Notice that when we go to edit, it's very similar to what we just saw in the desktop version. We had the fields, the visualizations, we've got the views, all that. We can bring data in, but we also are now able to publish this out. And if Chelsea published this, and then I open the same workspace, I will be able to see this report, either to view it, or I could potentially make changes if I have access to do that. You'll notice there you've got shared with me and all that kind of stuff that you kind of see in like a OneDrive if you're familiar with that, and that will give you the availability. So you see all of the different reports that are shared for you, and then you can go in and either work on them or just view them. What we've done here at our office is, of course, we haven't been at the office very much lately with COVID, but what we did before that was we had a big screen TV out in the hallway, and we were just giving metrics that we wanted to see, you know, how much time have people charged today? Who have we charged it to? So that was out in the main workspace as you went to your office, and you could go out and look and see those different metrics populate. And what we did is just launch this Power BI service onto a computer, hook that up to the TV, and then it just automatically refreshed throughout the day so we could see that.
But in this data sets is where you set up the refresh. Like you can see this one is next refreshed at 10:09. You know, obviously this hasn't refreshed since I've been in there, but this is where you do all of the scheduling of the refresh in connection to the servers.
And so, like I mentioned before, we're going to plan to do a webinar, and we'll kind of more focus on here's how you publish, here's how you schedule it, all that kind of good stuff in a later date. All right, so we'll pop back over here to the, all right. So then last thing before we kind of get into the reports is the data sources. So if we jump over here to the Power BI desktop, so if we hit the get data there, we can start to see all the different things that we have availability to. So you've got Excel, and then if we hit more there. All right, so Excel, we can bring in text files, JSON. So, if you have web services running, you can pull that. We've got SQL Server. So some of our GP users out there, you can connect directly to your SQL Server. If we look up Dynamics, we'll start to see there's Nav, there's Business Central. So there are already some built-in connectors. So I can just quickly, if I'm doing Business Central, for example, select that and then see all my different tables that I have access to. Today, we're going to focus on Excel. The main thing that I will mention as we start to go through this, this was by far our biggest registered users for Power BI. So we know there's a lot of interest out there for that. And we've talked to a lot of clients about that as well. A lot of times it's, I'm interested in Power BI. And then we say, okay, what do you want to report on? And then it's kind of a blank stare. So I think the first thing you want to do before you kind of get into building reports is think about those metrics that you want to track within your business. And it could be, you could be a salesperson, so you want to look at sales. It could be you're in purchasing, so you want to know what vendors are we spending the most on. You could be in HR and want to know, how many applicants are we getting per month? What kind of applicant are we getting? Do they have, or what's their education level? So no matter which spectrum of the business that you're working in, the first thing to do is to come up with, here's the things that I want to look at. These are the metrics I want to do. And then once you do that, all right, where is that data located? Is it in a SQL server? Is it in Excel? Is it in Salesforce? Is it in Dynamics 365 Sales? Is it in BC, GP? Whatever that is. So then once you know that, then figure out what table that's in. Go there. And then what you want to do is make sure you flatten that data out. So when I say flatten that data, what I mean is I don't want to have a report that maybe has, let's take sales, for example. I have departments across the top and then my dates down the left as a row. I don't want to do that. I want everything to be a column so that it's flat. And then when I get into Power BI, I'm able to actually do some work with it. So that's the first thing to do before you even get into learning Power BI. Think about those metrics, think about where that data is located right now, and then think about how you can flatten that data so that then you can do some work with it in Power BI. All right. So no questions yet. I just was checking there, so good there. All right. So just some examples here, and then we're actually going to go build these for the last half here of our session. And then at the end, we do have some time for questions. If anybody's got any, we can grab them if we have time. So here's an example just of a sales dashboard. We're going to actually go build this and show you how that works. What you can see, lots of different visuals. We've got a pie chart, bar chart, and see up there in the time frame, we can then set dates specific so that you can see certain ranges. The next slide there is going to be financial. So I tell people that you don't particularly want to do your income statement balance sheet in Power BI, although it would probably be possible if you wanted to, but I consider them more of a non-traditional financials. So first of all, I can just get like a dashboard that gives me some quick things. You'll notice there, quick ratio, AP balance, cash balance, AR. And then on the right there, just a full trial balance. But you can also do things, where you sum things up by categories and what I say is they're kind of a backup to your income statement. So maybe I have an income statement that I'm going through showing my board. What Power BI can do is add to that and let you, show we spent this much on these expenses this month, and then I'm going to drill in and see why we spent that. So kind of a backup tells more of the story of what your actual financials say. Financials are just numbers. Then a lot of times you're gonna need to drill into it, and that's where Power BI can help. All right, so next one there is inventory. So again, just another example of what we can do. Same idea here with the inventory evaluation, inventory on hand, and then the different types of visuals we can do with those. Also keep in mind when I'm getting into, and you'll see this as we go, I can pull a lot of different tables and then link them together, and you'll see how that works within the relationships as we get in and do the demo. All right, so I think we are ready. Enough of my talking. Let's get in there and look at the data. So today we're going to use Excel, mainly just because we know we have a lot of people from a lot of different programs, so we want to just use something everybody knows. So what we've done is actually the data that we're pulling is from Business Central, just so if you're familiar with like the Cronus database, this is where this data is from. But what we've done is thrown that into Excel, and we're going to use that as our data source. So you notice Chelsea hit Excel, and now we're going to bring in customers, and we're going to build this sales dashboard first. All right, so when we do that, what it's going to do is pull in the tabs that we have within that Excel file, and then we're going to tell it which tabs we want to do. So we can get a little preview there and see what we've got. And if Chelsea were to hit transform data, if you're familiar with Power Query, that's what's going to pop up. You may have used this in Excel. You may have used it in Power BI if you've worked with Power BI some. What Power Query is going to allow us to do is massage this data a little bit before we bring it into our actual report builder here. So first thing Chelsea's going to do is she's going to rename it. And the reason we're going to do that is we want to make it something so if I do publish this out and have someone else look at it, they'll know what they're looking at. Table 5 wouldn't mean anything to them. So we're going to make that customers. If you're familiar with like GP, for example, too, you pull in tables, they don't make sense of what they are. So it's a good idea to go in there and change that so people know what they're looking at. All right, so from here, Chelsea's also going to pull in another file because for the sales report, we want to look at customers and then we want to look at what we sold them. So these are going to be an ILE, that is an item ledger entry. So if you're not familiar with Business Central, that's just the ledger that tells us all the transactions that happen to inventory items. All right, so that's going to pop in. So now we've got another one. She's going to rename that again, so we know what we're looking at. All right, so we actually know that we have some problems here. We already know it, but the source number, for example, we need to change the type. So that's one thing you can do. So right now it's set to a whole number. We're going to flip that to a text so we don't have to deal with numbers. So within this, a lot of times you might use that for a date too. Sometimes the date may pull in a format that you don't want. So you can come up and change that different date. Maybe it pulls in as date time and you want it to be date, for example. So you can see that they all say 12 a.m. That's not going to help us. So we would just flip that back. Chelsea, show over on the right how you can just cancel that as well. So also on the right, you'll see those applied steps. So anything that we do, change a type, set a filter, remove a field, add a field, they will all show up on those applied steps, and you can actually either get rid of them by just hitting the X, or you can move them around too. So if you needed like a filter to happen before you did something else, you could actually drag that and move that up and down. Okay, so I think, Chelsea, let's see. We also need to change the amount to a decimal on this one. All right, so we're going to change that to a decimal. So again, a lot of the work that we do in Power BI is going to be getting this data massaged in a way that then we can do the report. You'll see once we put this out and do our actual visualizations. I'm going to fumble over that word all day. Then it's easy. Once I get the data how I need it, it's pretty easy. All right.
So Matt, and another thing to talk about here is it brought in columns I'm never going to use. And it is going to try to load those columns every time you hit refresh. So if you know there's a whole group of columns you're never going to actually use the data for, you can remove those inside of Power Query, and then it's not taking up space in your report and trying to load that. So it should improve your report performance.
Yeah, that's a good point too. You know, if let's say I'm directly connecting to SQL or something like that, there's going to be a lot of fields. If you just imagine what you've got there, that when you go to build a report, that are just going to be annoying to you. They're going to be in the way. So it's a good idea to kind of go through this first, just like she said, and get rid of that. So you're not looking at a bunch of data. We won't bore you with that here. We'll go ahead and apply. So when we hit close and apply, that's going to pull this out into our report. Now it will try to build the relationships for you. And what it's going to do is then kind of flatten these out and put them into one big table. Now, this time it couldn't figure out what that relationship was. Sometimes it will create a relationship and it won't be the right one. So you always want to kind of come look here at the relationships and see what it tried to do. This is the easier way to do it, because all you have to do is kind of go through the fields and then drag them out. So we know that source number is customer number in the item ledger entries. So we pull source number over to number against customer, and now we have a relationship. So whenever I pick a customer from the customer table, it will be linked to those item ledger entries. So that's what we're doing here, just building that relationship. All right, so now we're actually going to just build our visual. So this is the easy part. So once I've got the data built, I can pick and choose which visual I want. And even after I pull the data that I want, I can do that. So Chelsea's pulling name into legend. So in this pie chart, we know what that's going to look like. We're going to have a circle with different colors. So we want the name of the customer to be those different colors. And then we want to know how much we sold to each of those in this example. And we'll spend some time at the end. We'll pretty it up a little bit. But for now, we're just kind of getting the data that we want, and we want to see that those numbers are right. So what this tells us right here is per customer, how much have we sold, just total quantity, how much have we sold them. The next, oh yeah, do you want to set that filter? Yeah.
Yep. So you might notice that your data looks a little funky, right? You wouldn't have a blank customer name when you're pulling this in. So for those who know NAV and BC, in item ledger entry also is all of your purchases, warehouse movements, adjustments. So I need to set a filter type. Now, when Matt mentioned earlier, I can do this on this page, or I can do this on this visual. Well, this is all sales. So I'm going to do on this page and just do a sale. Right, so that takes out those that are my other types of transactions: purchases, adjustments, transfers.
All right, perfect. And so that's that one. So then we can also change the name. Show them there how to change the title there.
So across in your visualizations, there is a formatting section, right? So we can go into the title section and say, right, rename it so that it's meaningful to you. You can also change font colors, right? This is where you do all of the formatting, make it pretty. You can, sometimes it turns on without your data labels, which isn't necessarily helpful. So all of that is controlled in the format.
All right, so we've built our quantity by customer. So what we're going to do now, we know we want a similar visual. So what we're going to do is just copy this. And we're going to paste it and then move it where we want it.
I'm using Control V for the paste, just in case.
And this time we say we don't want quantity, but we know we want customers to still be our colors. And then we want to know how much we sold each customer. So that's the next piece here. So we just drag that in. And now we've got basically the same report, but except we're looking at sales. So again, we need to change our title because we've got a quantity by customer. And there we've got our sales dollar amount that we've sold each of our customers. So we're going to do one more chart here, I think.
Yep, and I'm actually going to do this one on a new tab just so we can separate it out.
All right, so this one we're going to look at sales by customer by year is what we're going to do here, and it's going to be a bar chart.
Except I need that to show. So right now it is not recognizing that as a hierarchy. So I'm going to go back to our table and look at the format in Power Query.
Yeah, so that posting date was going to pull it by day, but what we want it to do is be able to recognize that this is a date and give us the ability to pick year, month, quarter, whatever it is that we're trying to do there. So that's why we're going to pop out, change that date. When you do that, it will, when you come back out, it's going to tell you if there's changes that need to be applied. Usually it'll do it automatically. I've seen it sometimes where it doesn't make them and you need to tell it, go ahead and make those changes.
So the reason I did that is I wanted the state hierarchy because I wanted to do it by year, right? Like I want to show what customer I sold per year. And then we're going to do sales amount as our values.
Hey, Matt and Chelsea, we have a question in the Q&A if you want to take a look, or we can answer at the end of the session.
Okay. Let's see. So the question was, when you remove columns, will Power BI really not pull the data? It looks like it pulls information and then removes it. I think that is correct, that it does originally when you refresh and then it creates the filter. Chelsea, I believe that is correct. It will refresh and then filter.
Yes. The biggest
Okay.
thing is when you save that report, if you're using the free version, there are some size limits. It's pretty high. We haven't hit it yet with any of ours that we've done, but it doesn't store the data when you save it. So it's not going against your size limits.
All right, thank you. Okay, so this one, we've got sales amount, actual by name and year. So we're looking at customer per year sales. And then what we're gonna actually do is add a chart down here, or not a chart, a matrix. And what that's gonna give us is the detail that makes up this data. The reason I like this is because if I wanna look at, what did I sell the School of Fine Art in 2019, I can click that. It will filter this list and show me, okay, I sold 21,000 of that item. And those show negative because they're shipments, but those are sales there. So I like that. So now Chelsea, go click like Alpine Ski House, for example. So now we can see the detail that makes up. Why did we sell Alpine Ski House 52,000? Because we sold them these certain items. So I really like that view. We've used that a lot as we've built these reports, and it gives you a nice, and as I mentioned, with the financials, if you wanted to drill down on a certain account and then see all the transactions in Power BI, this is how you would do that. So you might have a chart that shows you the sum of each account and then be able to click on it. And just like we see here, we see that full detail of what makes up those bar charts. All right, so that is our sales. We'll move over here to the financial one next. Now this one, we're gonna be doing a measure. So we're gonna teach you how, if you need to do a calculation inside of a report, how that works. So again, we're using Excel. So we're gonna pull in the chart of accounts here. And notice we're still within the same report. So we've got our customer, our item ledgers, but now we're bringing in an additional table. So we can just we can bring as many tables as we want. If this, for example, was going to be a report that different users were going to consume. So maybe my chart of accounts is going to be consumed by a different group than my sales. I might create those as two different reports and then publish them separately to a sales workspace and maybe a financial workspace. But for today, we're just going to put them all in the same. So again, same thing we did before, bringing in the information, renaming it, and then we're going to clean up this data, I think, a little bit.
We're going to have the same problem on source number. So once we get over that, and I apologize, I do not have the column order memorized here. So you can see it's pulling in null for some because it's not recognizing that that could be an alphanumeric. It thinks this is a whole number. So we're going to change that to text again. And then I'm going to save and apply, and we're going to go back to designing our reports.
All right, so this one is going to be just a quick financial dashboard. You think, if I just need to open it up real quick one day and every day and see kind of my main AP, AR, cash, quick ratio, things like that. So that's what we're going to build here. We're going to use a card visual. So what the card visual does is just gives me a sum and just gives me a number. So when we're going to pick the account that we want to see here and put that into our filter, and then the amount is actually going to show up over here. So we're going to do a filter on, I think we're doing a P first.
So there are also a lot of different kinds of filtering. You can do advanced filtering, which is going to let you say greater than, less than, equal to. For this one, we're just going to do basic because I want to select a specific account.
All right, so we know 2100 is the AP account. So that's going to be our AP balance. And then we're going to do the same, although we will do a little bit of, again, using that title so that we can have that show up.
I'm actually going to go ahead and do the date slicer just so we can.
Okay.
That gets in here.
So if you're familiar with slicers, they have those in Excel, but the idea is I drag over a date field and then I can just slide it to the date I want, or I could go up there and just key in the date I want as well, the date range. And then what that's going to do, because we put this on the report as a total, or as a total filter for the whole page, as I make those changes up there in my posting date, these other things we're going to add to this page are also going to update to those dates.
So you're also going to see us do this a lot. You've probably seen us do it 2 or 3 times already. Once you have a visual you like, right, like we're just doing a dashboard high level, I'm copy and pasting and making a couple of edits.
Yeah,
Right,
so no reason to start from scratch if you've got something you need and all you're doing is changing the account. So this one is our cash. And again, we know those GL accounts based off just because we know that data, which you probably would too if you were building it. And this is our cash balance. We're not doing well here. We have a negative cash balance. So we have to our cash flow a little bit here.
I did not do a ton of data validation, right? Our Cronus gets used for a lot of different things. So who knows who's been testing what in there.
So there's our AR. We just need to collect and then we'll be back in the positive here. All right, so then again, as Chelsea moves that slider up there at the top, we can see those numbers change. So if you want to see for a certain date, we can set that, or you can just drag it to a range, type it in, whatever it is. But notice how those reports update. All right, so then the last one we're going to do, oh no, we're going to do a quick trial balance here.
Yep.
So all this is just a matrix, and all we're pulling in is every account and the balance at date. So that's what we're looking at here. And we can see that data, real nice trial balance, easy to see. And we can set those dates again to see what those are. Balance at date is just year to date, if you're not familiar with that term. All right, so then the last piece of this financial one is going.
Matt, I'm gonna stop you for 1 second.
Sorry.
Our dates here didn't filter, and that is probably because we have not done any relationship validation here, right? So if we jump out here, at the moment, chart of accounts and general ledger entries are not connected at all. So if we want to, we can drag and drop and connect those two together. It takes a second to recognize it. And then because of the field type, I don't know that that's going to change. If I were directly connected through like a web service, it would update. But since we pulled that in as a static value, it is still not going to update.
Okay. All right. So then I think now, if I'm not jumped ahead, we're going to do the quick ratio just to show you how to do a measure here. So what a measure is just a way to do a formula. And that formula will create a new field for you in Power BI. So what we're trying to do here is just create a quick ratio. This is just going to be a static value, and we're going to use this count subcategory to help us drive this quick ratio. So we're going to be looking for current assets and current liabilities, and then we're going to divide those to get our quick ratio.
So our first step here is we are going to group on that account subcategory and let it do the grouping for us. We're going to call this custom. I want it to sum our balance.
So you can see what happened there is that we limit all of our accounts. Now we're only looking at that subcategory and what the totals are there. So now we've got our current assets and our current liabilities. I think we're going to set a filter next. So now all we are seeing are those two accounts.
And then I'm going to save and publish so we can go back out to Power BI. There are certain functions that you have to do in Power BI versus Power Query, and our measure is one of those. It looks a little funky when it loaded. See if we can get it to refresh.
Yeah, we had this weird behavior the other day.
All right, so we're going to do a new measure.
And these measures use a language called DAX. A lot of people are familiar with it, but if you use like Power Pivot in Excel, then you might have used it before. Chelsea's copying this formula just so you don't have to watch us type it out. And we name things a little bit different than when we did this originally, so she's just updating that.
I'm a big fan if you've already done the data, right, done it once, reuse it as many times as you can. That is still yelling at me because when I copied, I had something in front of it. And when I selected it, it added additional text here that we don't need.
So these measures are a little bit, you got to have a little bit of learning. Now, I will say, I mean, you obviously could give us a call and we can help, but there's a lot of resources out there online so that you can get out there and see how to write things. A lot of times, if you just go out and search for what you're trying to do, you'll find the answer.
Now, we
the
also
sales team probably
created a
doesn't like me
problem.
saying that, but that is out there.
Sorry, Matt. We also created a problem because when we did that grouping, the data that this chart was looking at for our chart of accounts doesn't work anymore, right? Because we've changed what that table structure is. So you can import the same table more than once. That way you can have one that is the original table structure and one that is a manipulated table structure. So I'm just going to remove this for now rather than import it again for time's sake. And we're going to do a new card again and grab our quick ratio. And of course, I've misspelled it because I'm bad at typos.
So that's our quick ratio there. So once we build that measure, then we just throw it on that card visual, and then we've got that in our dashboard. All right, so we've got one more we're going to show you real quick on inventory, and then we'll do a little bit of prettying up, and then we might have some time for a few questions if there are any.
All right, so for inventory, I've already brought in item ledger entries. So I'm just going to use that same table we already brought in. I'm not going to go get a new one. And we're going to say, I want my item on my axis, and I'm doing this as cost amount actual. in our values, right? So you can see here, we can change the visual because we've used a lot of the same visuals, but once you have the data set up, if you kind of click through them, it will change and show you what that data looks like in those visuals. For this one, a lot of these aren't super meaningful because it's just a value.
This is a nice one here because you can quick at any point you open up Power BI, you've got a inventory valuation right here for you. So you can see where is most of my inventory value sitting, which items is it? Do I have inventory that's stale, that's not getting removed? This is a good way to see that.
Then I'm also going to do inventory by location, right? So I'm going to do that. I can do quantities as my value. Clearly, I've got a lot sitting in a blank location here, which means our data is not super great, but typically that's not how you would do that. And if I want to remove it so I don't see those, we can just do select all and unselect our blank, and then there's our main warehouse code.
All right.
You can also just do some quantity on hands, right? Just try to use a couple other visuals here. We can do item and quantity. I'm going to do remaining quantity. Some of these are negative because, again, lots of people use our demo sandbox here. That's not a great one to use. Okay, we'll stick to this one for here.
So then, Chelsea, go click like the main warehouse right now over here in our. So again, you can see as I do that, that's going to set filters on my other visuals. So I can see of that 41.67% that's in my main, what is making that up. And then I quickly see those item numbers listed there, and it'll show me what I've got.
So we also haven't talked a ton about formatting, and I know we only have a couple of minutes left. You can do a lot of things with formatting, color changes, wallpaper. I'll do the dark one for Matt because Matt likes the dark one. You can add logos, and you can see this doesn't look super great, but I can go to my individual visuals and do some formatting and say, turn off my background, right, so that it's see-through. And not the best place for a logo, but I could also add it just as an image and make everything else smaller. Matt, are there any specific ones you want me to highlight?
You might show too, like the wallpaper, you can turn the whole thing black, something like that.
So our logo right now is the wallpaper, but my background isn't also included. So if I go into page background, I can change that to black. And it should.
I think it's in the wallpaper, actually.
In the wallpaper? Now, when you do that, you might have to reformat everything, right, so that your fonts are white and stand out and resize them. You can also just add logos as, an individual text box like you would in PowerPoint. There are visuals out there in the App Store. Some are free. We are using what's included here, but you can always say, get more visuals from App Stores and go see what's out there.
All right. So I think that's kind of what we wanted to show today. Just give you kind of an introduction, show you how easy it kind of is once you get that data. The main issue is getting that data in place. If there's questions, Tara, I don't know if you want them to type them or can we open it up for?
So it looks like we have one in the chat. The location's dimensions. So in item ledger entries, location is an actual field. If your dimensions are in the table, you can use the dimensions the same way as long as all transactions have a dimension.
Yeah, so David, for you specifically, you wouldn't particularly use locations for what you're doing. That you may have a dimension for location. So it just depends. But as Chelsea said, in the scenario we were looking at there, those were actually physical locations like a warehouse. All right, Chelsea, question there. What did you click to see the data behind the chart?
All right, so Sabrina, I might have to follow up with you on this one. I'm clicking in here. You can also say, I don't remember which one. Which visual are you talking about, Sabrina? This one?
Hey, Sabrina, I've opened you up to talk. I've unmuted you.
Sabrina, I'll do a follow-up with you.
All right. Do we have any more questions? Feel free to use the Q&A at the bottom. Again, if you want to shoot me an email at tcox@trinsoft.com, we can answer those in the wrap up this afternoon. Matt and Chelsea, do you guys have anything else?
No, I don't think so. Just like I said at the beginning, be on the lookout. We will plan to do some more webinars, especially if you guys in your feedback would just let us know if that's something you'd be interested in and maybe what you would be interested in seeing. We can set up some additional webinars with Chelsea and I that just kind of go over general, publishing is definitely one I want to look at. And then if there's anything else though you have questions on that you would like to see specifically, just let us know in those evaluations.
All right, perfect. Thanks again, guys. We appreciate that. Was Matt Wood and Chelsea Mack. They were doing that today. Thank them for their time. And once again, I just wanted to remind you that Callie will be sending out evals for you guys. So fill those out. So the more sessions you attend, the better your chances are to win in the door prizes. One question we had, or one statement we had that came in during the session, we did want to remind you that, Matt and Chelsea, we work in GP and NAV and BC every day, but this does work across all platforms and you can have multiple data solutions and all of this. I know they mentioned that at the beginning, but just wanted to reiterate that to you guys. If you have any questions about other data sources, or if, again, like Matt said, if you're interested in seeing a one-on-one of what BI can do for you and your team and your company, please shoot us an email. We'd love to show you and help you out with that. Again, fill out those evals. Thank you for attending this session. Next up, we have a GP-specific webinar or a session and a NAV-specific session, or Dynamics 365 Business Central. So if you haven't registered, feel free to go to trinsoft.com/TrinCon and you can register right there. If you have other attendees or other people in your organization that you think could benefit for that session, please have them do that as well. And we'll begin that at about 11 o'clock. So I appreciate you guys today. And if you have any other questions or anything, comments, again, tcox@trinsoft.com. We appreciate your time and we look forward to seeing you out throughout the day. Bye-bye.